This last session has to do with pages in various ways. So we are at various pages here. I've given the title, the presentation, the title 13 asterisk pages, and we will hear later on what this asterisks actually means. So, and everything in this session is related to page handling in pdfToolbox 13. This is the overview here. So the first part of the presentation, it's about how to select pages. So what is new in pdfToolbox 13 when it comes to selecting pages. And then after we've selected pages in the PDF file, we ought to do something with it. So, and then we are come to that part of the operation. And then it's going to be about reordering pages, using page selections in checks for filters and fix-ups. And then the last topic here is how to place individual text on pages in a PDF file. So each page should have a different text. And I'm using page transitions, as you might see here, just because it works very well in a presentation related to pages. The first part of it, as you know, or as I've already said, this is about page selectors. So what actually is a page selector? A page selector is something that you can use in pdfToolbox 13 whenever you select pages. Page selectors are the same what has been introduced in long time ago and was also available in pdfToolbox 12 as a split scheme. So in split PDF we introduced something that was had the name a split scheme, and that actually was what today is a page selector. And a page selector can just be a page range, but it can also be much more. So here we are looking at the evolution of page selection, if you want. So it starts fairly simple with a page range. So let's say from page 1 to page 100. It's getting slightly more interesting in the second example here, where we say starting with page 3 to the third last page in a PDF file. So in this case, we would select all pages in a PDF file except the first and the last two. And then you could have a number of ranges, one after the other. So we have page 1 to 2, and then the last two pages in a PDF file. So here we are selecting the opposite of what we selected beforehand. Yeah? And now, and this all is page ranges, so you can already use that, maybe with the exception of the last example in pdfToolbox, wherever you use a page range. But now we are introducing page selectors whenever you select pages. Yeah, and then of course you could do the same as before, a simple expression or a range. You can also have ordered ranges, like page 10, page 4, 1 to 2 and 7, and then you see they are not following one after the other. And then you have certain expressions, certain characters that you may use, and there the first example is a joker, the dollar sign, and the dollar sign is interpreted as covering all remaining pages. So in our example here, 10, 4, 1 to 2 and 7 followed by the dollar sign means 10, 4, 1 and 2, 7, and then all the remaining pages in their order. So the first page that was not covered was page 3, so that is to come, and then the other pages. That is the joker. And then the asterisk. So I know it's not asterisk, but since this is the last session of this event, I couldn't resist to have an image here of him. And then what is a multi-page expression? It could be even, uneven, and all. So you may use strings in a multi-page expression. And then, yeah, I think it's clear what they mean. All even pages or all uneven pages. And then you can enter a page number followed by an asterisk. And then that means you address packages of 5 pages or number of pages. Yeah? So in this example, packages of 5 pages. And then if you follow that expression with a number in parentheses, then that says packages of 5 pages starting with page 2. And then the asterisk in front of the page number means something different. That means every 5th page. So if it's behind, it's more, you may say, so it's more pages. If it's in front, you pick every 5th page. And then again, you could use a start page in parentheses. And then that start page may also be relative to the last page in the document, -20. And again, you could then combine asterisk 5, so every 5th page, with all other pages in the PDF file. And that's basically it. So that is the syntax of page selection in pdfToolbox 13. And where can you use it? So as I've said, basically everywhere where you select pages in pdfToolbox 13, and that applies to a new check property that is there, which is sequential page number matches page selector. So we had sequential page number before, and that uses ranges, and then there is an alternative check that you could use, and that would accept a page selector as expression. And basically, you could always use this new check property because that would include the syntax of the sequential page number property. Yeah? And then you can, in addition to that, also use page selections in actions, in quick fixes, on command line, and also in compare. So here's a screenshot of the compare step. So we've seen that screenshot before. And here when you can select pages in the one PDF that you compare with the other. And then there you can not just use page ranges, you can also use page selections here. Okay, now what do we do with our page selection? So what to do, and this next topic here is we want to reorder pages in a PDF file. There are actually three different or new features in pdfToolbox 13 that you could use in order to reorder pages in a PDF file. First, there is the action split or reorder that existed before. So this is not the action itself, is not new, but the way it works is new. Yeah? And first, and that is also not new, what you need to understand, if you use this action split or reorder in a process plan, you need to know how to deal with these checkboxes here. So merge again and replace original. This action works a little different than all the other actions. So insofar as every other action would usually the result. So if that action creates a PDF file, that PDF file is the active PDF thereafter. For split or reorder, that is only the case if you replace the original. And then the name says split or reorder. So if you split a PDF file into parts and you want to process the result, then you need to merge the split parts together again, so into just a single PDF file. So usually in a process plan, you would just use both check marks. And here I have some examples about how that works. So the first one just selects pages, and again this is not in the order as the pages were in the original. So the original PDF file that we can see here at the top is just a 20 pages PDF file, and each page just has its page number except of the first PDF page. Yeah? And then if you select page 1, 9, 2 to 4 and 15, you will get what you have asked for. So those pages and all the other pages are removed, are not there in the result. You could as well invert the order. So you could say 5 to 1, and then you would get, starting with page 5 down to page 1, all the pages that you had selected. And that is new. So that doesn't work that way in pdfToolbox 12. Another example, so we use our asterisk here, and as I've said, if we pick every 5th page, we get the 1st, the 6th, the 11th and the 16th page. This is not always intuitive, but if you think twice, yes, it is exactly what you get then. If you want to specify the start page, as I've said, you would use parentheses here. So if you may have expected to get page 5, page 10, page 15 and page 20. And if you want to get that, then you have to specify that the start page is not the first page of the PDF, but the 5th page. Yeah. Yeah, a little more advanced examples here. So we'd use the same expression as before, every 5th page, starting with the 5th page. And then with a joker, we get all other pages from the original PDF file. And I could also have duplicate pages on the fly, as we see in the other example here. So we have asterisk 5 and asterisk 10, which means the first and the 11th page of our original PDF file will be twice in the result file. So quite powerful in the end. And then, so this is about the action, split or reorder. And now there are also 2 new quick fixes. And why do we need that? The action probably addresses all what we want to do when it comes to reordering pages. Quick fix works much faster. So if you have attended the first session of this event, there I explained what is the difference between an action that is part of the pdfToolbox general PDF processing engine and a quick fix, which is kind of outside, so it doesn't have all the overhead of an engine that can process every PDF file in every possible way, or at least all ways we thought about beforehand. Quick fix is much more, much smaller and can just address certain things, but those things can be done very quick. And here in the comparison, if we want to invert pages, you can do that with the action, or you can do that with a quick fix. It doesn't make a big difference if you have, let's say, 10 pages. But if you have 1,510 pages, so many more, then there is actually a big difference. So with split or reorder, and I just did it in the preparation of this presentation, I used the action split or reorder in order to invert the pages, the order of pages, and it took me 45 seconds. And with the quick fix, it was only 3 seconds. So there is a huge difference when it comes to big PDF files. Big meaning lots of pages. So Invert Page Order specializes in inverting the page order, as you may guess. And if I would use it with the multi-page, with the expression all, it would basically invert the page order in my PDF file. It works slightly different to the split or reorder action. It would never remove any pages. So where split and or reorder would take PDF pages out of the original PDF file, Invert Pages does so as well, but the remaining pages all stay where they are. And here we have an example. If I say 1 to 4, it will just invert the order of the first 4 pages in my PDF file. And if I use 2 ranges or non-consecutive ranges, 1 and 3 to 5, it would take out those pages out of the PDF file, invert their order, and put them back into the PDF file. So I have selected 1, 3, 4, and 5, and then 5 would go where page 1 was before, and so forth. So the algorithm behind it is it takes the selected pages out of the PDF file, inverts their order, and then puts them back into the empty slots, so where these pages have been before. And here's a more complex example if you want. So in this case we only have a 10-page PDF file, and then we use *3 starting with page 3, and then if we invert the order, page 9 would go where page 3 was before, page 6 would remain where it was, and page 3 would go to where page 9 was before. And lastly, there is another quite powerful quick fix, Reorder Pages, that also works different from split or reorder action. And here I want to start with the algorithm. It also takes out pages out of the original PDF file. So using a page selector, then it determines the destination. And that happens so that you first say relative to, and there you have the options last page in PDF, first page in PDF, last page in the selection, or first page in the selection. And then from that page you can go, you have an offset, so you can go 3 pages to the first page or 3 pages to the last page, or whatsoever. Any number, any negative or positive number can go here. And then you can say on that you have now selected a page, and then before or after that page that you have selected is its destination for your selected PDF files. And then you have yet another option, and that says insert the selected pages as consecutive pages, meaning just as one page of the selection follows the other, or you shift just the page structure. Yeah? And I have an example for that, so maybe then it becomes more clear. So *3 selects every 3rd page. Then I say my destination is the first page in the PDF plus 2. So I go 2 pages to the end. And then after that page, I insert my selected pages, and then I say shift page structure. So the selected pages aren't inserted as a consecutive number of pages. They keep their distances. So, and now I have determined that I need to shift all the pages to the 3rd slot if you want, and then all other pages of my selection keep their distances. And at the end there is no page that could go in between, so then page 10 of my selection directly follows page 7. And another example here, we again select every 3rd page, we say last page in PDF, and then it doesn't matter whether we say keep a shift page structure or as consecutive pages, because there aren't any pages that could go in between. Yeah? That's that. So that's all about reordering pages. You have various capabilities in pdfToolbox. You can use the action, and that makes a lot of sense, mostly for smaller PDF files, so with not hundreds of pages. And if you have hundreds of pages, for instance, invoices, and you need to, I don't know, kind of shift the page structure for each invoice, then you can use the quick fixes, for instance. Okay, now filtering pages. So using page selectors or page ranges in order to modify PDF files, but only on selected pages. And I want to give a little bit of a background, because that sounds more easy as it actually is. The background, a PDF, one of the very smart things actually in a PDF file is that resources can be shared. So you can have an image, and that is the more easy part. You can have an image, and then you add that image only once into the internal PDF structure, and then you reference that image on various pages throughout your PDF file. And then, of course, it's smart to have that image only once in the PDF file. And that is an image X object, so that is the normal way how you would enter an image file into a PDF file and add an image file to the PDF file. You could also use Form X objects, and that happens also quite frequently. And the Form X object is just page description. So a Form X object may contain anything that is on a PDF page otherwise. Just it encapsulates kind of page description into a Form X object. And then you can also reuse that Form X object on as many pages as you want. So for an invoice or for PDF files with repeating content, that is of course very smart, because it can make the result wouldn't be much bigger than the original if you always just place the same resource. And then such a Form X object may again contain another Form X object, and so forth. So you could kind of build trees of resources where one resource references another resource, and so forth. And that makes it actually very complicated to determine, if you process pages selectively, to determine when to duplicate resources, because it's easy to understand. If I want to convert an image from color to black and white, and I only want to do that on certain pages, I may need to duplicate that image in my internal PDF structure, so that it, on the one page where it shouldn't be converted, remains to be colorful, while it is converted on the other pages. Yeah, and because of these trees of resources, you need to determine where the tree starts, and where the reference that comes from the page that you're currently processing actually enters into that tree. And in pdfToolbox, and I mentioned that also when I was talking about fix-ups and quick fixes, pdfToolbox kind of creates an internal representation of the PDF file. And then if you apply in a profile a number of fix-ups, it kind of applies all the fix-ups to the PDF file at once. And that design has been chosen because of performance reasons. So this way it's much faster than if you would apply fix-ups one after the other. But that architecture is also demanding. requires lots of work to safely duplicate resources. So this is not a straightforward thing to do in this model. That was just background. We've done many improvements here in pdfToolbox 13. So resource duplication works much better. However, the one thing that I need to mention is if you have large PDF files, meaning many pages, more than 100 pages, resource duplication needs time. So you may or you might see that processing takes longer if you have lots of pages and if you use page selectors for filters. Yeah? So what happens inside of pdfToolbox, as soon as you use a filter that filters for pages, so for instance sequential page number or the new check where you could use page selectors, sequential page number matches page selector. As soon as you use one of these filters or another one that results in the number of pages, resource duplication kicks in, and if you have large numbers of pages, you will see that also on performance. Two more things so that also are related to pages, to different pages in a PDF file. One thing that I already mentioned is if you have varying page dimensions, aka page geometry boxes in your PDF file, it is handy that we introduced a new way that is always available to specify an area on a page that is relative to the page geometry boxes. So this is one thing that we wanted to address somehow in pdfToolbox 13, that it's possible to work with PDF files with varying page sizes more easily than before. And this is exactly what is made possible via this simple pop-up here that lets you specify an area on a page relative to its edges. And then of course that area may vary from page to page. And the last thing that I want to mention is the other feature that we wanted to implement in pdfToolbox 13 is to be able to place individual text on pages. So each page in a PDF file could get its own text, and it turned out that that is actually already possible in pdfToolbox 12. If you would use the fix-up, arbitrary JavaScript controlled fix-ups. And we actually, indeed, we really started thinking about the feature, and then after thinking twice, we thought, okay, no, it's actually whatever we can do in a new fix-up or so, it's would require some user setup. So you would want to somehow specify the spot on the page where the text should go to. You would somehow have to provide an array of strings that will then be placed. So why not just use what we have? Why not just use the arbitrary JavaScript controlled fix-ups in a small process plan? And that is exactly what we do with pdfToolbox 13. There's a process plan with the name place individual text per page. And I want to briefly show that here. I am in the library shapes, variables, JavaScript, and place content. And there is the process plan with the name place individual text per page. And I have a PDF file here on my left-hand side with 5 pages. And if I now just apply the process plan and save the result as I have done before, it will place some text on my pages here. and I can use the new zoom feature in order to zoom into that area of the page. And then the first text here says text on page 1, no surprise. And on the second page can still count, so it says text on page 2, text on page 3, text on page 4, not easy to read because of the green logo for peace. And on the 5th page it starts over, so here is text on page 1 again, which is not completely true, but whatever. So how has this been set up? Let's create a duplicate. So this is a process plan. In the first step, some configuration, some settings are done, and then in the second part, it's just a JavaScript-based fix-up. And if we show that it is just one call, so it just applies up vars create text configs to the fix-up here. And similar to what we have seen from David just in Impose and yesterday. So this fix-up requires some structure, and that structure needs to meet the expectations of the fix-up. And what is in create text configs, that has been specified in the step before. And since it's an up vars, it's available throughout my process plan. So nobody will ever have to look into this step. But if you want to place individual text on pages, you may look into the first one here. And if we want to modify it, we enter the duplicate thing here. And first, we have a text array here, and that seems to contain the texts that we use on our pages. Yeah? And then guess who has written that JavaScript? So we say that is Vincent. And let's say, since David is also here, we say David. And maybe last but not least, it's me. And then we can remove the fourth one because there are only the 3 of us here. And then we have some structure here. If you want a template, and that template uses the parameters of the place text fix-up. So the place text fix-up had been imported here, similar to what David has shown yesterday when he was talking about checks. So these are just the parameters of the place text fix-up. For instance, there are color values, and we could use something more purplish to make David happy. So let's use 70 and 90 and then we could use here, we specify the position on the page. There is some comment that helps us to do so. So now currently we are using center of page. Let's use upper left corner. So we just copy that into here. And then we may also want to specify an offset, and that is easier for me if I would use millimeter instead of point. And then we'd say vertical offset, it should go a little down, so we say -10. And then horizontal, this by the way is alphabetical order, and then it's 10 here. And then we are maybe happy. Note that you here at the bottom, you don't have to edit this, but here we have the filter. So we are using a check filter here, and we are specifying the check within here. So as David has shown yesterday, it's possible to define structures for checks in JavaScript, new in pdfToolbox 13, and then you can use these checks, these structures also in apply to filters. And then I could hit the test button here just to see what this JavaScript has created. It has actually created lots of text here, lots of settings, and that is because for each page in our PDF file, it has created an instance of place text, and each instance of place text here uses one of the strings of our array. And then if we save that, and let's apply that to the very same PDF file here, then it hopefully creates new text on each page, and then each page gets its name, starting with Vincent, then David, then myself, and then again start over using Vincent and David. So the idea here is for the ones who need that, I forgot to mention one thing, because this actually uses yet another new feature in pdfToolbox. Here it uses the font Noto Sans Regular that is part of the pdfToolbox install. And you could as well use font family, and that was a method that was used, the only method that was available in pdfToolbox 12. With this, now it is possible to embed a font into a configuration, in this case into the process plan, so that you don't have to care about whether that font is available on the system where it is used or not. Of course, you will have to care that you have proper licensing. So that is, you may only use that font if you have proper licensing. The Noto Sans is free, so you can use that. Yes?
A question about this. Question is your process plan now not using or starting pdfChip for every page? In other words, if I do this on 1,000 pages, is this the same as running 1,000 times place text or whatever it is?
Yeah, it could be. So, yeah, it would. True.
So if you have lots of pages,
yeah,
you might still want to do place content.
Yeah, you could do otherwise. So the other alternative to that would be to create a template or an HTML that is as big as you have pages, one after the other, and then use that to place a text. You can do that. It requires probably more experience with JavaScript and HTML, but that for very big PDF files, that would be faster to process, yeah. That's it. Any other questions?
Well, actually, Ulrich disagrees with you and says that pdfChip will only run once for this example. I have to admit that I would have to look at it in more detail to understand why, because I also thought it would be more than once. But
okay. Okay, so yeah, why? Okay, so it's even better than I thought. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say about pages in PDF files. Any other questions?
Yes, something that is, I think, not related to what you said, but it is still about pages, so I'm going to allow it. Given that you've used all kinds of page things in your presentation. Yeah. This is a question about color conversion and output intents. Yeah, and so the question is, if you do color conversion in pdfToolbox 13, will it take page-based output intents into account to do the conversion?
Yes, it does.
So if I have different output intents, for example, for the cover and for the inside, that would be taken into account?
I guess it would. I'm not fully sure whether that would be the case for a PDF file that isn't a PDF 2.0 file.
Okay.
Yeah, because only in PDF 2.0 page level output intents are defined.
Supported. Yeah. But you think if it is a PDF 2.0 file,
yeah, then that should be the case.
and it should be an important PDF 2.0 file if page-based output intents are defined.
Exactly,
I mean, yeah.
exactly.
So to be tested, but
yeah,
we're betting on yes.